Hello, and thank you for joining today's presentation all about spring river cruises in Europe. My name is Lynn, and I will be the moderator for today's presentation. We understand that now is not an easy time to travel, but it is the perfect time to start researching destinations and planning your next trip. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a couple things. First, we will hold all questions until the end. If you have a question during the session, please type it into the GoToWebinar question box, and we will cover it at the end of the session. And second, we will have 2 polling questions during this presentation, and we encourage you to participate. So let's get started. As I mentioned, I'm Lynn, and I will be your moderator for this presentation. And I'm very happy to introduce you to 2 lovely gentlemen, Graham, one of our knowledgeable rail specialists, and Andy, our river cruise expert, who will be your presenters today. So now that you know a little bit about us, I'd like to know a little bit more about you with our first polling question. Have you taken a river cruise vacation? And we'll keep this open for a bit longer. And it looks like just about all of our attendees have answered, so I'll be closing the poll here. All right, great. Well, gentlemen, it looks as though just 20% of our attendees have been on a river cruise. I'm certain everyone will enjoy learning about what makes these itineraries so special during your portion of the presentation. But first, I'd like to talk a little bit about vacations by rail. We have a wide variety of itineraries to destinations around the globe, and the cornerstone of every trip is a journey aboard one of the world's iconic trains. Yes, even on a river cruise vacation. So why choose us? Vacations by Rail is the leading rail vacation company in the United States and the trusted authority on rail. We offer the largest selection of rail vacations in a variety of travel styles, from escorted tours and independent vacations to luxury journeys and a rail cruise combination package. We are a member of the National Tour Association and American Bus Association. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and we're also AARP's preferred rail provider. Vacations by Rail is a great rail journeys company backed by more than 45 years of experience in the specialty of global rail tours. And in addition to unmatched vacations, we offer best-in-class customer care from your first call or email to your return home from your trip. So now I'm happy to turn the reins over to Andy, who can tell you all about the joys of river cruising in Europe.
Thanks, Lynn. Hi, everybody. I'm Andy. I'm the cruise product manager here at Vacations by Rail. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Amadeus ships and the joys of river cruising in Europe. So we exclusively charter our river cruise ships. They're 5-star. I describe them as modern luxury. Our customers rave about the look and feel of the ships. They're amongst the best ships on European rivers. They take up to 166 passengers with 45 staff on board. The oldest ship is only 5 years old. The newest was launched this year, and we've got another new ship launching in 2021. In terms of amenities, every ship has a restaurant with floor-to-ceiling windows, so you can see the scenery as we're sailing down the river. You have a bar and a lounge, an outdoor terrace, a sun deck with sun loungers, fitness centre, masseuse, hairdresser, gift shop. We have the Amadeus Club at the rear of the ship, where you find a small library, 24/7 complimentary tea and coffee. There's a bar. And again, you've got the full-length windows so you can see the views of the river as you're sailing along. In terms of meals, dining is something that's really, really important to our customers. We have for breakfast an extensive buffet. There's also a waiter-served menu. We serve everything from bacon, sausages, and eggs, however you want them, scrambled, over easy, omelette, all the way up to a full breakfast buffet with fresh fruit and so on. Probably my favorite thing about the breakfast are the pastries. They're freshly baked each morning by the onboard pastry chef. So I like to grab a coffee and a pastry and take a look at the scenery. If the weather's nice, you can take it up to the sun deck and have breakfast there. Lunchtime, we have a waiter served 4-course lunch in the main restaurant. We also have a lighter lunch in the lounge, and that's typically a salad bar and a pasta chef. Dinner is 5 courses, and we always like to have dishes on the menu that are typical of the region that we're sailing through. So if we're in Belgium, for instance, we have Belgian waffles and chocolate for dessert. Goulash is on the menu for if we're in Budapest, and so on. And there's always a choice on the menu. And I describe the food as high quality modern European cuisine. We include wine and beer with every dinner on board. And the wine is typical of the region. So if you're sailing on the Rhone, for instance, you'll find French wine on the menu. If you're on the Rhine, you'll see German wines. On the Douro, Portuguese wines, and so on. In terms of excursions and sightseeing, that's all included. So everything from the city sightseeing in places like Vienna, Amsterdam, Paris, that's all included. We have wine tastings, cooking classes. There'll be some rail journeys, of course. Occasionally we'll have an onboard talk. Some days there'll be a choice of excursions. For instance, on the Rhine, you'll choose between a city tour of Strasbourg or a journey into the Black Forest, where you get amazing views of the forest and free time to walk in the forest itself. And all of that is included in the price. So let's take a look at a map of Europe. In the past, of course, the rivers were most well known for the transportation of goods and services. So there's always a real buzz of life on the river. And as you sail along on your vacation, you'll see and you'll hear about how that influenced and helped shape the history and culture of the towns and the cities that you'll visit along the way. Starting in the west, on the left-hand side, you can see the River Douro. So the Douro stretches from inland Spain to the Portuguese coast into the Atlantic. It's a really, really scenic river with vineyards and wineries along the banks. Some amazing places to visit, like Porto in Portugal, and the city of Salamanca in Spain, which has the most gorgeous Plaza Mayor, probably the most beautiful in the whole of Spain. The weather's usually hot and sunny. Can't guarantee it, but it's usually hot and sunny in Portugal too, which is a bonus. And the Douro is just increasingly popular every year. More and more people are travelling on the Douro. In France, we sail on the Dordogne River, which connects to the Garonne in the Bordeaux region. So that's fantastic for wine lovers because you're sailing through probably the most famous old world wine region on earth, and we include some delicious wines in that cruise with some wine tastings. But for every dinner on that cruise, you have a selection of really high quality Bordeaux wines that we serve. And in the north there, you can see the River Seine. That is, of course, the river around which Paris is built, and we explore Paris before sailing north to the Normandy coast. And then in the south, you can see the River Rhone. That's a river of incredible variety. There are some great wine regions like Burgundy, some amazing cities, wildlife, and of course, you're going all the way to the gorgeous Mediterranean coast. In Northern Europe, you can see the waterways of Belgium and the Netherlands, which we explore on our Tulip cruise. And then the two rivers which really the river cruise industry was built on, the Rhine and the Danube, which have some of the most stunning scenery of any European river. The Rhine stretches from Switzerland through Germany, Belgium and Holland into the North Sea. Our version of the cruise goes from Basel in Switzerland to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And then the Danube, there which you can see it stretches from Germany, Austria, through Hungary, Slovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, and then into the Black Sea, which you can see to the very east of the map on the right-hand side. So the really incredible thing about both the Rhine and the Danube, the amount of different countries and cities and cultural differences that you can see throughout the voyage as you travel across the continent. So that's a brief overview of the rivers of Europe. And you'll hear more about the cruise-only itineraries in a short while, but something I wanted to mention was the add-on tours that we offer at the beginning or end of the cruises. They're normally between 2 nights and 5 nights long, so you can see more of Europe on your vacation. We offer, for instance, the Glacier Express and the Rhine cruise, where you spend 4 nights exploring Switzerland, and we include a journey on the Glacier Express and also on the Gornergrat Mountain Railway, so that's hugely popular. On the Danube, very, very popular is the Imperial Cities add-on, where you visit Berlin and Prague. So I think Graham will talk more about some of the add-ons as well in a bit, but I just wanted to say we've got a whole program of add-ons across our river cruises, so please go and check them out on our website or in the brochure. Okay, so let's have a closer look at the 5-star ships. Here's the Amadeus Star. You can see people there relaxing on the sun deck and the outside outdoor terrace at the front of the ship. They're sailing through Cologne, and in Germany you can see the incredible cathedral in the background there. So that's what the ship looks like from the outside. And here's what the ship looks like on the inside. Every ship has its own decor and its own personality. If we start on the top left, here we'll go clockwise. So you can see top left is one of our cabins on the lower deck, one of the C4 or C1 cabins. You can see how spacious it is and how light and airy. We then go clockwise around. You can see the river terrace there at the front of the ship, and then the 24-hour reception. Bottom right is the main restaurant with the floor-to-ceiling windows, and then bottom centre is the lounge and the bar. Again, you've got the panoramic windows so you can enjoy the views as we're sailing along. And then bottom left, you've got one of the upgraded cabins. This is on the middle deck or upper deck, and you can see again the panoramic windows. In fact, what we can do with this window is you just click a button and the top of the window slowly comes down and it basically transforms into the Juliet balcony. Okay, so here's the deck plan, a bit more technical information about the ship. So the entire fleet's very new, as I said, possibly the newest in Europe. The oldest ship is only 5 years old, as I said, and we're introducing new ships each year. So we've got 4 decks, 3 of them have got cabins on, plus the sun deck at the top of the ship. We've got the restaurant, the bar and lounge, the Amadeus Club at the rear of the upper deck, the river terrace, fitness room, hair salon, massage room, gift shop. We've got laundry service if you need it. There's complimentary Wi-Fi throughout the ship, and the Wi-Fi is actually very good. And we've gone for an upgraded Wi-Fi system. It's actually the best Wi-Fi I've experienced on a river cruise ship. There are also complimentary bikes on board if you fancy taking a ride along the riverbank. You just book those bikes at reception and they'll get that ready for you. So if we have a look at some of the cabins, first thing to say is because the ships are so modern, they've made great use of the space with the cabins, and all of our cabins actually are extremely spacious. So if you are shopping around for a cruise, please compare our cabins to those of other river cruise companies, because I'm really, really confident that the size and the quality of these cabins compared really, really favourably against the rest of the industry. Okay, so on the lower deck, you've got the C4 and the C1 cabins. They're 172 square feet in size. They've got a panoramic window, and you can then upgrade if you want to a middle deck or an upper deck cabin. They're larger in size, 188 square feet. They've got amazing full-length floor-to-ceiling panoramic window, which transforms into the balcony. And then we've also got a number of suites on the upper deck, which are much larger. They include a separate seating area. We've also got a larger bathroom. They've got an exterior balcony as well. And so all of these cabins, every single cabin includes tea and coffee making facilities, which we replenish daily, and choice of double or twin bed configuration. So just tell us which you prefer, and we'll make sure that you get the double or twin beds. And there's TV, of course, individual aircon, ensuite facilities, hairdryer, telephone, safe, and then a walk-in wardrobe in every single cabin and suite on board. Okay, now I'll hand over to Graham. Let's take you through some of the itineraries.
Thanks, Andy. Hello, everyone. My name's Graham, and as Lynn mentioned, I'm one of our rail specialists here at Vacations by Rail, and just here to talk you through a couple of our fantastic cruise itineraries. So our first tour that we are going to look at today is our Holland's Tulip cruise, featuring the Keukenhof Gardens. The Keukenhof Gardens, obviously famous throughout the world for the incredible tulips that are on display throughout the spring, and in which more than 7 million bulbs are planted across 79 acres. And this is just one amazing highlights of this tour. So this particular tour is an 8-day tour, beginning and ending in Amsterdam. It is an escorted tour, which means you'll be traveling as part of a group, and you'll be fully escorted by a tour manager from start to finish. And so on day 1, you are free to arrive at your leisure before welcome drinks and dinner in the evening on board the ship. Many travelers that will come will like an extra day or two, just to adjust to kind of the time difference, or to just explore the city more. And later I'll run through our pre and post package extensions about how to do that and how to add those on. And so on day 2, we make day 2 a flexible touring day where you have a choice of 2 excursions. The first choice is a city tour of Amsterdam, including a canal boat cruise passing historical landmarks such as the Royal Palace, Dam Square, the Mint Tower, the Skinny Bridge and Portuguese Synagogue, among other famous monuments. Alternatively, the second excursion is a journey on board the Medemblik steam train, the only preserved steam train in the Netherlands. We travel to Holland, one of the oldest cities in the Netherlands, where we have some free time before we board the steam train for a unique ride from Holland to Medemblik. After lunch back on board the ship, we spend the afternoon on board the vessel, or you can enjoy free time in the city, after which we set sail for Ghent. Day 3 is filled with history. Colonel Pierre's story pew provides us with the background of the battlefields of Ypres and the memorials there. Ypres was the area of a series of engagements during World War I between the German and the Allied forces. And it is always an added benefit to have those experts on board to preview our touring. After lunch, we tour the battlefields and visit Sanctuary Wood, Hill 60 and Tynecott Cemetery. The ship is moored in Ghent tonight, giving you the chance to disembark and enjoy the city during the evening as well. On day 4, we enjoy a guided walking tour of Ghent in the morning, exploring Ghent's narrow streets and pretty boulevards. There is incredible architecture throughout the town, which lends an elegant grandness to the buildings here, and we discover some of the finest examples on our tour, which includes the impressive St. Bavo's Cathedral and the Belfry. After lunch back on board the ship, the afternoon is at your leisure to explore more of Ghent before we set sail in the evening. And we arrive into Bruges on day 5, which is one of the highlights of the trip in my opinion, and one of my favourite cities to visit. It's distinguished by its canals, cobbled streets and medieval buildings. Its winding streets often open up into squares where cafes serve plenty of Belgian delicacies as well for you to enjoy. And we have enjoy a walking tour in the morning, followed by free time with which to explore the city in the afternoon. The ship arrives into Arnhem on day 6, where again you have a choice of 2 excursions. The first is a trip to the Hartenstein Airborne Museum for a guided tour. The Airborne Museum Hartenstein is dedicated to the Battle of Arnhem, in which the Allied forces attempted to form a bridgehead on the northern banks of the Rhine River in September 1944. Hartenstein served as the headquarters of the British 1st Airborne Division, and in the museum there's an extensive and diverse collection displaying original weaponry, genuine uniforms and equipment used in the battle. The second excursion is a trip to the Netherlands Open Air Museum for a guided tour to learn about Dutch history and tradition of 18th and 19th century country living. The Netherlands Open Air Museum takes you back into the past of everyday life of ordinary Dutch people. In the evening, there is a captain's gala dinner before we set sail for Amsterdam. So this morning we arrived back into Amsterdam where we are joined on board by another guest speaker, Charlie Dimmock, who is a horticultural expert. And we can enjoy her tips on horticulture and garden care, as well as a question and answer session with her. Later, we experience a true highlight of the cruise, a visit to the world-famous Kirkenhof Gardens. As I mentioned, it features 7 million flowering bulbs of all sizes and variety. This is one of the best floral displays in the world. This evening, a Dutch sea shanty choir serenades us on board the ship. And on the final day after breakfast on board, you are free to disembark and travel home. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the tour, a lot of our travellers do choose to fly in either 1 or 2 days ahead of the tour. And so what we've done is create some pre-cruise packages, which can be easily added on to extend your trip in either London or Amsterdam. These packages can also be done at the end of the trip as well. So it's very flexible for us to add those on either at the beginning or at the end. And I'll now pass you back over to Andy, who will talk about our second fantastic cruise ship.
Thank you very much, Graham. And here we go. Okay, so this is the Amadeus Provence, an absolutely stunning river cruise ship which sails on the Rhone and the Saône in France. So this is what the Amadeus Provence looks like from the outside. And then if we take a look, inside in the interior, as I said, every ship has its own personality, and the decor on board the Provence is related to the lavender fields of Provence. So you can see the lounge on the top right there, and the restaurant in the bottom right, again with the floor-to-ceiling panoramic windows. A really special feature of this ship, as you can see in the bottom left, we've got an infinity pool at the rear of the sun deck, which people really rave about. In terms of the facilities, we've got everything that I spoke about earlier. So you have the restaurant, the bar and lounge, the Amadeus Club, the river terrace, the sun deck, fitness room, etc. The ship is slightly smaller than the Star. It's 140 passengers, so it's slightly more intimate, but an absolutely stunning ship. In terms of the cabins, they're the same across the fleet. So much like the Star, we've got the lower deck C4 and C1 cabins, which are 172 square feet with the panoramic window, and then the opportunity to upgrade to the middle and upper deck cabins, which are larger, and they have that amazing electric drop-down panoramic window, which turns into a balcony. And then we've got a number of suites. We've got 8 suites on the Provence, which are again much larger. You've got the corner seating area, the larger bathroom, and the walkout exterior balcony. And again, every single cabin on board can be configured twin or double, and you've got a walk-in wardrobe, and in every single cabin, hairdryer, telephone, safe, and so on. So again, a really stunning ship. Okay, well, back over to Graham, who's going to talk you through the Rhone itinerary.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So yeah, our final itinerary for today is our fantastic romantic Rhone cruise. And so this trip again is an 8-day, 7-night tour, beginning and ending in Lyon. Again, it is fully escorted from start to finish. And as with the Tulip's cruise tour, there are also a couple of pre and post tour packages, which I'll run through at the end as well. So on day 1, you arrive into Lyon to board your luxurious ship, the MS Amadeus Provence. We have time to settle into our cabins before we enjoy a welcome cocktail, which you might like to enjoy on the sun deck, as we admire Lyon's colourful townhouses and lively streets. Later, we sit down to a fantastic 5-course meal before setting sail for Bern. We arrive into Bern on day 2, where we embark on a sightseeing tour of this classic medieval town, before enjoying a wine tasting which makes the town and the Burgundy region so famous. On day 3, we sail back into Lyon, where we disembark for a guided tour. Our tour takes us along the streets and over the bridges to explore some of the fantastic highlights and the extensive history here. The Old Town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and many of the small shops and traditional businesses lend a truly French flair to our surroundings. We return to the ship for an afternoon at leisure as we cruise through one of the most scenic and panoramic sections of the river, with a spacious sun deck the best place to admire the scenery. On day 4, we have a morning excursion on board the Petit Train de l'Ardèche, a train ride which features amazing views of waterfalls, lakes and bridges. We return to the ship in the afternoon, where we set sail for Avignon. In Avignon today, we head out on a guided tour of this city, famous for being seat of the Pope for a brief period in the 14th century. Its striking white papal palaces and majestic cathedral are just some of the highlights we see walking through the boulevards and squares of Avignon's historic centre, which earned UNESCO World Heritage status in 1995. Afterwards, we enter the Pope's Palace, admiring its spectacular interiors and the range of holy and religious artifacts collected here. You are then free until early evening to discover the city at your own pace. And after dinner tonight, our ship sets sail for Arles. We begin the day with a guided tour of Arles, whose enchanting streets provided the inspiration for many of Vincent van Gogh's most famous paintings. In the afternoon, there is a choice of 2 excursions. You may wish to take an excursion to the beautiful Camargue Delta, where the Rhone opens out into the Mediterranean, a treat for nature lovers as the wetlands and park area are home to nearly 400 species of birds, pink flamingos and wild horses. Alternatively, you may wish to visit the iconic arches of the Pont du Gard, an ancient Roman aqueduct and a UNESCO World Heritage Site which spans the Gardon River. Today's excursion takes us to the Grand Canyon of Europe, the stunning Ardèche Gorge. Nearly 19 miles in length and made up of snaking rivers and gorges, this is a natural monument that is incredible to witness. Back on board, we enjoy a captain's gala dinner as we make our way back to Lyon. And our journey ends back in Lyon on day 8, where you are free to make your way home. And as we discussed with the previous tour, there are some packages available which we can add on at either the beginning or the end of the tour if you wish to, in either Paris or Lyon. There's 2 nights accommodation included, as well as the transfers to Lyon. And as I mentioned, these can also be done at the end of the trip as well. Thank you so much for listening, and I will now pass you back over to Lynn, who I think has our second polling question.
I do. Thank you so much, Graham. Our next polling question is, how far in advance do you typically plan your vacation? So we have 3 choices there for you: 12 to 18 months in advance, 6 to 11 months in advance, or 5 or less months. So we'll keep this open for a bit and let all of these great answers come in. And I see the majority of our attendees have answered, so I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. And it's close, gentlemen, but it looks like there's a tie between 12 to 18 months and 6 to 11 months. 12 to 18 months has a bit more answers, so it looks like we have some planners with us today. So let's go back to Graham to wrap this up for us.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, so lastly, just wanted to kind of recap some of the fantastic features of our cruise packages. As Andy has spoken about, this really is 5-star cruising with unique scenic rail excursions included along the way. And since launching our cruise packages, I think a few years ago, they've just been incredibly popular. Obviously, all of the excursions, the meals are included with the majority of the drinks as well. So it really is almost kind of all inclusive and just a fantastic way to kind of see a lot of Europe. Finally, yeah, as Andy spoke about, again, this is just a small selection of cruises that we offer. You know, we offer various other cruises on the Rhine, sailing through Germany down to Switzerland, on the Danube and the Douro, as well as many more. And you can find all of these in our cruise brochures, which you're able to request, or by visiting our website at vacationsbyrail.com. You can also always give us a call, and any of our rail specialists are always happy to help and advise you.
So Graham told you how to learn more about our cruises, but we also have an extensive collection of itineraries featuring the world's iconic trains, from legendary overnight rail experiences to all daylight adventures. If you're interested in learning more about these tours, you can download or order one of our brochures by calling 877-929-7245 or visiting vacationsbyrail.com. In addition, if you'd like to speak to a rail specialist, you can call that toll-free number again right there on your screen, or go online to vacationsbyrail.com. And here is my insider tip for you. The rail specialist that books your trip is your dedicated agent until you return home from your trip. So we're at the question and answer portion of our session today. And so we do have time for a few. So I'm going to group these into cruise versus non-specific cruising questions. The first is for Andy. How many dinner seatings are there on the cruise ship?
So right now we have one dinner seating. The restaurant's large enough to comfortably seat everybody. The time of dinner normally is around about 7, half 7. If we've had a particularly long excursion that day, or we've had an afternoon excursion, it can sometimes go a little bit later. But yeah, it's one seating, and it's normally around about 7, half 7.
Okay, great. And along the lines of meals, Andy, is formal attire required at dinner?
It's not required. No, we don't have a formal dress policy for dinner. But as Graham mentioned, throughout the itineraries, on every itinerary, we have a gala dinner once per cruise, and we don't enforce any kind of dress code, but people tend to like to dress up for that particular dinner. So they might wear a jacket and tie or an evening dress. So it's worth taking something along for the gala dinner for sure.
Okay, great. Andy, can you tell us a little bit more about the complimentary bikes on board the ship?
Yeah, so we have a handful of bikes that are stored on the sun deck. They're sort of size, small enough size so that everybody can ride them. If you want to book one of the cycles, you just talk to reception and they'll get that ready for you. And they're perfect, really, if we're moored in a particularly scenic part of the river. Grab one of the cycles and go for a ride along the riverbank and take in the views. So yeah, really, really easy to book. You just talk to reception and they'll get that ready for you.
All right, fantastic. This is a good one for Graham. For the post-cruise packages, can you add hotel and sightseeing to any of those? Can you extend those packages?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the pre and post packages are kind of booked independently of the actual cruise itineraries. So we can always add on additional nights, and there's certainly a wide range of sightseeing tours that we can book as well. And probably best your rail specialist can certainly advise you of this, but that's certainly something that we can definitely extend and add on if we need to.
All right, perfect. Well, that's all the time we have for questions. If you did ask a question, but we didn't get to it during this session, a rail specialist will reach out to you after this session to make sure that your questions are answered. So thank you, Andy and Graham, for telling us all about these exciting river cruises. And thanks to our attendees for joining us. Please keep an eye out for a special offer as a thank you for attending today. Have a great day.